It is August 26th, 2020. Time and actual, I can't see anything because my damn glasses are off. 9:41 in the morning. It's Wednesday. Weaver Johnson. Sometimes when I'm in classes and I have to read certain materials, sometimes it never surprises me, and sometimes it always does. It contradicts the terms of human cruelty masquerading as kindness, and how the writings are afterwards is coming up as monstrous. Maybe some people would consider it as fake news or something like that, but not really. Not really. Because something of that nature, the constant demonstration of what we are, it never ceases to scare the hell out of me. I've heard about Spanish Inquisitions. I've heard about the Holy Crusades. I've read the gists of them in history books. There was not any one history book of any sort that would give an accurate account about what happened during the Crusades. It was all passed down from research after research after research, and then things boiled down and then reboiled again from different historians. But when you do come across something that is demonstrating of human misery, specifically, and how the other accounts have to weigh in about how things were for human beings all over the planet in different ways, shapes, and forms, that they don't have to experience a hell of a lot of death, cruelty, injustice, all because in the name of expansion of the human. And it just never ceases to amaze me how screwed up we can be. The manifest destiny attitude. Sometimes they call it the force of nature. They would call it Darwinism. They would call it whatever the hell they would call it. Man versus beast, or it is the will, it is nature, it is the way of things. We've heard too many expressions in similar fashions of what it's supposed to be. You're coming across sometimes the works for an English class. This has got history in it. Little pieces of chunk of history that I haven't even covered in a little more detail or in another different light. I knew the gist of it during high school. I knew the gist of it in my college courses. And to get new perspective on the stuff I read, makes me wonder why we had to last this long. Why was it so important for the human race to last this long? I mean, shit, just take a look at Mr. Blake out in Kenosha, Wisconsin. There are many more like him, different ways, shape, or form, of the violence and cruelty of human beings sometimes. Sometimes, how about all the time? How about all the time? That's a concept right there. That's a scary and absolute terrifying concept all the time. And why? Why are we like this? What is it about the human condition that we have to force and throw our will against everybody else? The natural law, as Darwin would put it? Is it natural law for us to go after people like this? Should it be natural law? I don't like it. Darker, uglier side of humanity. And our zest and our zeal for more things in our life. We overlook a lot. We overlook too much. And in trying to explain something so existential, and trying to piece a larger world into a few words or maybe a sentence or two to get clarity. How do you get clarity on a universe that defies clarity? The viewpoints that you see, how do you find the words to describe the brutal nature of man? Where are the words coming from to describe, in whatever language, of atrocity? And the lies and deceits, the blames, lack of transparency or accountability. We have rules and regulations set up, and sometimes people feel that one side isn't treated fairly enough because the other side feels they're more dominant or they think it's more appropriate, and the conflict continues. People claim they have rights, and other people claim they don't. When a rule of law is broken into too many damn pieces, you don't even know what to make out of it anymore. And you go back in time, and you read the excerpts of things that happened, and you're wondering, has it really been like that for a long while? And the scary answer is, yeah, it has been. There have been books we considered holy that have been passed around from word to word to word, and finally into the inscriptions that are looked at, and judged, and valued, extrapolated, exonerated, exploited, explored, denounced and pronounced. If anything else could be verified along with it. Was it considered fake, or was it considered truth? My history professors, at least one of them, would look at the Holy Bible as a history book of sorts, because we have no other accounts prior to what we've got. Of course, we've seen caveman drawings, but there's also been drawings and carvings and languages for different civilizations. Explained a lot of things happening. It usually would correspond to some of the documents found, and documents translated into the sacred texts that we used to supposedly guide our behaviors and our actions. That would guide us into proper laws, but we haven't been able to do that properly, apparently. properly, it would have been everything hunky-dory. No issues, no fights, no dramas, no traumas. None of that. Disturbing enough, when I read something about it in English class regarding history. Regarding history of humanity at work. Sometimes, well, we don't even know what's best anymore, do we? It's always interpreted into different formats and different styles. Was this legitimate? Was this not legitimate? And if it did actually happen like this, and it was verified by several sources, then we have to accept the conclusion of that. And we still don't like it because that's what happened. What I've been reading in one particular class was regarding when the Spanish came over to Central America, when they took over the West Indies and in Central America. I read the gist about the cruelty back then. Their values, a lot different than what our current values are today. Their viewpoints on religion, different back then compared to today. What we have tried to do today is in conflict with what happened yesterday. And we're still having issues, regardless. Because we don't want to know about it, we don't want to explore about it, we don't even want to have anything to deal with it. And yet there it is, right in front of our face. How do we deal with the cruelty of man? How do we justify that to anybody these days? If we actually had somebody from, okay, we're going to be throwing the sci-fi element here. Somebody from out of town or from out of our solar system and went into our libraries to understand human conditions and borrowed or scanned, copied a lot of our books. If they actually had an higher intelligence to analyze everything, what would their judgment be upon humankind? They have their own set of values. They have their own set of rules, regulations, laws. And looking at someone else's values, would they judge us as harshly as we try to judge ourselves? Or would it be worse than we've already done to ourselves? And at times, I think about these things. At times, I agonize over these things because the problem is when you get too overloaded with a lot of these news stories these days, shit, God knows how long, how many decades. When you get jaundiced by all this stuff and you get a thick skin and you can't deal with it anymore, and you just turn a blind eye to it. It's like you have another eyelid just drops down and you just don't see it. You just walk through life. And that's what people get pissed off about. Not enough emotion, not enough action, not enough reaction at this point over here to go crazier and crazier and crazier at this point over here until all hell breaks loose. Because what they're trying to do is rip off that third eyelid that we have that blinds us to a lot of things that we've been accustomed to. That we jaundice ourselves. We can't get past that darker nature of our side. We cannot. It is part of us. But it doesn't excuse it. It doesn't explain it away. It just is. And that's why we still have to have the laws and regulations updated constantly. That's why we have to keep updating our behaviors constantly, because we have this darker nature of us. And history is replete with it. It is full of it. When I hear atrocities happening in streets, Even last night in Wisconsin, there's been a shooting, killing, burning, looting, major rioting over an incident that got caught on videotape, on camera phones, sent to the news media, and now we've got a shitstorm happening. One small incident in human history. We'll try to blow it up into the biggest cosmic situation. But it's just one small incident. They focused on more of the incident instead of the broader picture. They try to focus on the broader picture, but they're not even seeing more and more of it. Sometimes the pastors can't, and they can't describe it even further than what it already is. The darker nature of our side going crazy at this point over here. Hell, they ought to start reading more and more history and how screwed up we really are. They'll go as far as slavery at this point over here, but they haven't gone further enough. They haven't gone further enough. And we have to have laws updated. In the anthology I'm reading, they were talking about in the islands of Hispaniola, and in the West Indies, of the cruelty of the Spaniards during that time. The so-called Christians, the Catholics, the ones that are supposed to be following Christ. Compared to today, I wonder, are we even better as Christians who follow those teachings of Jesus Christ? I say no. I'm sorry, no. Because what's been happening these days isn't it? Oh, lying, cheating, stealing, killing. I keep wondering how a supreme creator of everything had the audacity to keep us alive like this. We try so damn hard not to, but yet we're so screwed up. We can't even acknowledge it. We don't even know how to acknowledge it. That's the scary damn part about it. It's terrifying. Because we just don't know what the hell we're doing anymore. I've talked about a lot of things happening in my life and also around me. What I observed, what I felt, what I've acted on, what I didn't. What I've read about, what I've experienced. A lot of it. A lot of videos. Some never made it into YouTube. Others have. Portions of my own observations, my own understanding, and I feel like there should have been condemnation and there should have been something else going against humanity because of the darker side of nature at this point over here. And what I keep forgetting is the lighter sides of nature. Lighter sides of man that keep fighting like crazy to make sure that we have the truth uncovered. Yes, it's painful to see it. Yes. We get so jaundiced, we have to keep that eyelid closed. We have our eyes open, but we have a shield. We're blind. And that's why the constant conflict there. Because we have to make sure that eyelid never shuts. We have to make sure that we are not so jaundiced. Because quite frankly, it's easy enough to be jaundiced. All you have to turn is a blind eye to everything. And just go about your business. Not care about what happens. Yeah, it makes you angry. Yeah, it makes you pissed off. Yeah, it tears apart your soul. Yeah, it wears you down a lot. But we have to keep remembering that our lighter side has to keep fighting this. as tired and exhausted and as bored as hell as we probably are for everything else happening in our lives, why the hell should we care? We keep asking ourselves. Because put yourself in the other shoes. Put yourself in that person's shoes, unless you've already been there. And then maybe you've had an experience where you have to put the blind eye on. And you don't want to see it anymore. Because you've already gone through too damn much. But you have to set the example. You have to let people know what's going on. You have to educate them. No matter how hard and how long and how painful it is to read about it or even see it. We have to keep hoping for better changes, for a better world, for a better understanding that maybe someday we would have grown up more and more and matured enough, or stopped trying to kill each other. We stopped trying to hurt each other. We stopped trying to conquer other lands and taking over someone else's couch and eating their chips and watching their television and throwing the people out of the apartment or house. Basically what we've done. What we keep doing. How pissed off would you be? That's basically what I gotta say.